it's all happening. A little bit late here with some technical issues, but we're finally online. I'm so excited today to introduce you to our guest speaker today, Justine Martin. I'm so honored to have you today. Your life story is so inspiring, so I can't wait to get into that. And of course, we have our co-host, Danny Sinnott. This is our second sessions, and again, privileged to have you part of our journey here with the conversations with GNG. And look forward to talk all about change and resilience.
Yeah.
And of course, we have Giselle here,
Hello.
my partner.
Hi, everyone.
The second G of the show name.
That's right.
Sounds like we're getting ready to get on the horses, G&G.
Yeah.
That's it. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah, well, speaking about giddying up, I think what an honour it is to have Justine with us today. She's a resilience transformation coach, international keynote speaker, a book author, and a podcast host known as the Queen of Resilience. And I'll tell you what, Justine Martin is, as Gio said, our special guest today. And boy, are you in for a treat. She's got an incredible story, and we're going to be hearing a lot more about that. So welcome, Justine. So great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Such a pleasure being here.
Thanks for being with us.
You're welcome.
Very good.
So, Justine, resilience is a huge topic, especially when we think about life and the unexpected twisters. That's great English, isn't it? It's already. Twists and turns that it takes, especially during change and transition. And you've certainly had a lot of that in your journey.
I have.
Would you be happy to just sort of frame that up in a nutshell for us? Because I think people are going to really understand why you're on the show today when we're talking about change and resilience.
So I like to say that I've got two lives. One that started when I was born in 1971, so work out how many years years old I am, and then it changed in 2011. Now, my mum had MS. She was diagnosed in about 1981. I was around 10 years of age, but she had breast cancer before that, and she got cervical cancer and then lung cancer. So there was a lot of trauma and building resilience as a teenager and as a child there with her and being her carer. And then in March 2011, so I'm coming up to my 13th year of being diagnosed myself with multiple sclerosis. Then in 2013, 14 and 15, I underwent heart surgeries. And you think that would be enough. And then in 2016, I started going purple with a condition called libido reticularis. I look like a zombie, so my kids thought it was great. I was the Walking Dead. Mum was turning into a zombie. We tried to make light of it all. That then led me to being diagnosed with melanoma in the September when they were looking for lymphoma. Then I got diagnosed later that year with mixed cryoglobulinemia, so all my internal organs were being choked off with too much protein in my blood, which then, so that was in the December, they knew that I had lymphoma, they just didn't know what type. And then in the January 2017, I got diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia and small lymphocytic lymphoma. So effectively I had 3 primary cancers, 2 blood conditions and the MS all at the same time. Then I got diagnosed in 2018 with lipedema, which is a genetic condition that's also known as painful fat syndrome that is quite prevalent in the media at the moment as well. And my mum had it, my auntie's got it, there's quite a few of us in the family with that. And then 2020, unfortunately, I was the victim of domestic violence, again, had bones broken, and I'm still dealing with that. And then in 2022, I found my last partner dead on the floor. So there hasn't been yet to find an adversity that I haven't faced. So, broken marriages, illness, facing death, you name it. I've pretty much been through it in my 53 years on Sunday.
Wow.
So there you go. That's it in a nutshell. So in 2011, I was told that I would never work again. Yet here I am now as the current Geelong Business Excellent Awards Business Leader of the Year, successfully running 7 businesses. So
How many?
7.
7 businesses.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've really lived life as a carer, looking
Yes.
after mum,
Mhm.
and you've also experienced things personally as well.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
what are some of the, we're talking to our carers out there, what are some strategies that you use very early on and then maybe had to adapt as time went on in terms of developing resilience in those particular situations?
Self-care. I think self-care is probably the number one huge thing, and we don't do enough of it. And it's not selfish to be looking after your self-care. The oxygen theory mask, oxygen mask theory, I should say, is something that we should all live by. Carers, non-carers, everyone. If you are not looking after your own needs first, then you cannot look after anyone else in your life. And whether that is just taking 5 or 10 minutes out in the day to go for a quick walk and get some fresh air, or read a magazine, take a hot bubble bath. It doesn't have to cost much money to actually include self-care into your life. So definitely that would be the number one thing. And seek support as well. And there are places now that you can get support from, whereas when I was a carer, there wasn't anywhere. I felt very, very alone. But you've got to reach out for that support as well. You can't expect people to support you if you're not reaching for that support. And to me, as someone who's now disabled as well, to ask for help has been a big change. And I now see help as a sign of independence. And asking for help is a sign of strength, never a sign of weakness. So when you change your mindset like that, life becomes a lot easier.
So powerful. So you're seeking for help, it's a sign of strength,
Yes.
not a sign of weaknesses.
Always.
How good is that?
Always.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And don't beat yourself up if you're asking for help.
Yeah.
Right? Because you cannot build resilience by yourself. You need to ask for help to build for resilience.
Yeah.
It's not a sole thing. Right?
Yeah, there's not such a thing of self-made, right? We always, thrive on, cooperations, relationships.
That's
and,
right. Coaches,
okay.
mentors,
Yeah,
parents.
that is part of your
community.
Looking after yourself and, growing and eventually giving back.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a circle, isn't it?
And honestly, how often do we hear of someone who's been caring for someone else for a long time and they end up passing away before the person who's sick does because they've just got so stressed and burned out.
Because they haven't asked for help.
Yeah, because they haven't asked for help, because they haven't employed, the self-care stuff.
Don't be a martyr.
Yeah. Doesn't get you anywhere.
It doesn't get you absolutely anywhere. Yeah. Because who's going to look after you when you're down the bottom then? I mean, there's another thing, treat yourself as a god or a goddess. And where are you on the ladder of life? Are you down the bottom or are you up the top that you can then help everyone else under there?
Yeah.
So, pull everyone else up. Yeah. But you can't do that unless you're looking after yourself.
That's right. And, there are so many wonderful services to be able to get help as a carer now too. And, Giovanni and Giselle, very good with that kind of thing and knowing, being service providers themselves, where to go for help. And so if that's something that's helpful for you, contact them for sure. But Justine, with that whole thing of becoming a carer, it's a big life transition, right? There's so much unknown about it because everyone's situation is different. What would you say for carers that are entering into that unknown and that time of transition besides self-care? What are some ways that they can navigate that, not just with physical things they're doing, but also in their mindset?
I would definitely get some counselling. Counselling's very prevalent in their life because it is a big change. Joining other groups, networking with other people. So whether it's online, and there's plenty of support groups online nowadays, or going into the community and finding a group of, say you're a carer for someone with cancer, there are support groups out there for people who are looking after people with cancer or MS or whatever the person is that you're caring for. So you're not alone, so you're not doing it. So you can hear how other people are actually dealing with the situation that, you might be similarly dealing with as well.
And what does that do to you by, talking to a group of people that are going through the same?
You build a tribe.
Build a tribe.
Building that tribe, so you're not alone. So you're not walking that journey by yourself. And so when you're down and you're in the dumps and you're frustrated, you've got someone that understands what you're going through, that you can vent to. And, you might just pick up the phone and call that support person or that connection that you've made, and it's like, it's such and such, they've just done this and I don't know what to do. And they're like, it's okay, I understand, if you tried doing this. And, it gives you some suggestions, and that's like, I haven't thought about that. Go for a walk, calm down, it's okay, everything's going to be all right. But don't try and do it all yourself.
Well, back to what we were saying before, right? We're not self-made. It's so critically important.
It is.
Reaching for help again is a sign of strength.
Yeah.
It's such a good phrase.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
nicely put.
And I think being honest about that too, because sometimes when a change or a trauma's hit us, we actually just need a soft place to land. Sometimes we just need someone to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having those people, that tribe, that circle, is super, super important.
And someone can understand you because they've been there themselves, right? So you build that the tribe and
trust.
And trust.
Yeah.
And Justine, you're a writer and publisher.
Yes.
So how about journaling, or can we talk about the power of writing things down for carers or support people? What are your thoughts around that, or any tips?
I think that's amazing thing to do, and I do that quite often because writing it down gets it out of your head and you don't have to carry it anymore.
Yeah.
Getting all those thoughts down. I sleep with a pad of paper and a pen beside the bed because, when you can't sleep and things are going around in your head at 2 a.m. in the morning, just write them down. Get them out. Put them on paper.
Would it help you then get more sleep?
Yeah, definitely.
So it does work for you.
It does that to me too.
Yeah, works for you too. Yeah, because you're carrying it all in there all the time.
Yeah.
Especially carers who are, they need to make appointments for a loved one, and they've got their own appointments. And sometimes we talk about sandwich generation. That's perhaps people who are looking after maybe a mum or dad, but they've also got kids themselves that they need to look after. So there's
keeping a diary.
A lot going on. Yeah.
Well, I've been journaling on my journal since 2009, and since I came to Australia, even before that, and all my challenges, all my even negative thoughts.
Yeah, definitely.
All this negativity and rejections, all of that. Writing it down, really helped me. Put a little bit more context to it and make it more real, so you can see them on paper, and then you know how to solve it.
And also,
once you pinpoint what it is that bothers you.
It's also really good if you are seeing a counsellor, if you're journaling. Because quite often when you walk into a counsellor door, I've been seeing a counsellor since 2012, and I go every 2 to 3 weeks because I don't believe that it's my family or my friend's responsibility to hear me vent. I pay someone to do that. I go in there, I vent away to her, I walk out feeling so much lighter. And I still have my good relationships with my family and my friends that they don't need to hear all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
That's a good point.
sometimes when I was going in there in the early days, I'd forget what I want to talk to her about. So by journaling it down and writing it all down, I have a list now that I go in there, what's happened over the 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, right, I need to talk to you about this, 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 and this. And that really helps. By journaling things down and writing things down as well, when you're then accompanying the person that you're caring with going to medical appointments, you've got reference that you can go back in and say, well, these are the changes that I've noticed with, like, you know, Joe Blow who I'm caring for, rather than relying on your memory all the time, because you won't remember everything.
But even changes on yourself that you've
That's
gone through
right.
when you overcome those challenges and see where you're coming from, to see where you are right now. It makes you feel better that you know you've grown as a person.
That's right. And if you ever want to write a book down the track, you know, you can contact me, and you've got reference
and
material.
You've got your notes.
That's right.
And I think, Denny, we talked last time about naming your feelings and how important it is, because then you can act.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can actually do something about it if you know how to, you know what it is that you're feeling.
Exactly.
So I think that's an important thing to be able to do.
And I think even just hearing all of you now and pulling all of those principles together, something I do with my clients a lot when I'm counselling, is just that, what Justine said, like the value of coming to a counsellor is that you get that opportunity to vent, but it's in a safe space. Other relationships aren't impacted, but you've also got that safe place and that soft place to land. And so on the topic of like pens and getting things out, I found these pens called friction pens. We are not paid by Pilot Pens, just a disclaimer. But they're all different colours and they actually rub out. You can get highlights and the pens, right? And so if you're trying to sort thoughts and you're colour coding them, it does incredible things for your brain.
Good idea.
What a great strategy.
Sorting out. And so just a brain dump about, you know, look, I'm really struggling with this. And then, like you said, exploring the feeling. Well, what is it about that feeling that is triggering me? And quite often, if something's hysterical, in other words, if it's caused a trigger or a reaction, it's because it's historical. It's usually connected to something in your past. And especially when you've got traumas or multiple traumas, Justine, and, you know, in my life, you know, same sort of deal, not to the degree and, you know, certainly different things to you. But, you know, I don't know, there's a certain way that the same buttons tend to get triggered. There's often like a root where if you dig back far enough, you'll find where that original, I guess,
core belief
is there, and it was instilled, and sometimes way back in your childhood. But if you can work your way back to that, and then when you're triggered, you realise why. The mindset and what you choose to think and how you choose to respond, because we can't control everything that happens to us, but we can choose how we respond.
That's exactly right.
And I think that's a big core thing in dealing with some of this. And Justine, you know, even just hearing you talk before about your methodology and everything you've been through, and even, you know, you put out on social media and told us today you've just come out of surgery.
Yeah, yesterday.
You're sitting here. I mean, the epitome of resilience. But another word that I love and that you have just shown continually in your journey, and even right now after surgery, sitting in this chair because you want to come in and help all these carers, is grit.
Yeah, I've got a new word for you, and I'll release it on here because it is coming through in my business, and that's moxie.
This is a first.
It is a first.
This is a first.
Moxie. So that's my new word. You can't all pinch it. Moxie, and the Moxie method is coming out. We're bringing it out this year, so there's a first for you. And Moxie means grit, determination, resilience, all of it built into one, and that's me, Moxie, and that's actually the title of my new book.
Wow, you heard it here first. It's amazing.
Is it coming out soon, or?
And I finished writing it.
I've
probably got about 10 chapters to go. So, you know, I'm writing it, and then pivotal moments that have been in my life that have shaped my life. And then, you know, I'll be writing a chapter, and I showed my writing coach the other day, and she's like, why did you do that? Not everyone does that. What? I can't tell you the actual thing. You'll have to read the book. She goes, that's a chapter in itself. And I'm like, another chapter. And so every chapter I write, another chapter comes from that. So maybe there'll be part one, and, you know, then there'll be another book in there, series. Yeah, so we'll see. But, it is looking at those beliefs and going, just because that's the way that it has been done in my past doesn't mean that's the way that I have to continue to do it into my future. And looking at it and going, okay, who can I trust, who can I employ into my life in order to change the way that I react.
Yeah.
And that was the thing with when my arm got broken. And the men that I was attracting into my life and the failed relationships. And it's like, what's the one thing that is linked with all these failed relationships? Me. So I've got to change. I'm the one that has to change. It's not the men that have to change. It's me that has to change in order to stop attracting the wrong people into my life. So it was going right back. Even though I'd been in therapy for years, it was still, okay, let's go right back and strip it all back. What do I need to actually do? And it's recognising these behaviours in our life, how you deal with trauma, how you are dealing with, especially if you're caring for a parent, all of a sudden there's that role reversal. You know, I was a teenager being a parent to my parent. It's extremely difficult. How do you deal with those role reversals?
Yeah. And it's like an onion, really, isn't it? It's that
There's layers.
One layer at a time.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question because of what you said before. Is it's important that you dig to find out what is really the issue there. But how does one do that? Like how? Like where do you stop? Where do you? How do you know that you've hit it? You've gotten it?
Yeah. Look, I think there's lots of ways to do that, and there are dangerous ways and safe ways to do that. My first disclaimer would be get a therapist.
Yeah.
A good therapist.
A good one, yeah. And make sure you do. Make sure it's someone you gel with. But, yeah, there's lots of different ways of doing that. One technique that I use that I sort of developed was a timeline. So basically having a line on a piece of paper. I've got worksheets for this, but obviously you can do it yourself, but there's just a line and you start from the day you were born and sometimes even before through to now. And then at the top of the line, for every positive event that's happened in your life or every highlight, you draw a line up to a count of 10, okay? So 10 being this was absolutely awesome, fantastic, best experience. You might have something else that was good, but it was two, defining moments in your life. And then at the bottom on the timeline, same deal, but the most devastating, the most, or anything that affected you, whether that was being bullied at school or being abused or, a failed marriage or whatever that looks like. And then what you end up seeing with that is when you take each of those points and you look at, what did that make me or cause me to feel? What did that cause me to believe about myself that was maybe true or not true? What patterns or behaviours did I institute because of that? Did I self-medicate with drugs? Did I, think I was useless? Did I believe that all men were feral? Whatever that looked like. And then when you analyse that, you start to see patterns with certain things.
Of behaviour.
Patterns of behaviour, patterns of particular feelings. So if you're someone who maybe has a lot of rejection issues, you'll be able to then pinpoint it back to certain times and know why you maybe have a sensitivity to that or why you don't have boundaries with somebody. And so I think in a caring situation too, that's really important to recognise about ourselves because sometimes even caring for a person, if they're not feeling well and they're being a bit difficult or, it's a family relationship, that there can be triggers there that can actually help you to manage better for yourself if that's triggering stuff in you or learning more about yourself. And I think with change and transition, having that unknown can be scary and something that causes anxiety. But if we do a mind switch, it can also be a great adventure. And that might sound strange when you're talking about how can you have a good adventure or a great adventure when you're in this horrible situation of, caring for someone who's sick or watching a loved one pass away or having all of that stress. But it's an opportunity to discover yourself and maybe even sometimes find yourself for the first time.
Yeah. I think you also have to recognise, like in my case, I got to the point where I realised that I could no longer give my mum the care that she actually needed. And it was probably one of the hardest decisions that I've had to make. I was 22 with a newborn baby, a single mum, I could not give her the care that she needed anymore. And I carried guilt for years on thinking that I'd failed her when in fact I'd given her the best opportunity still in life by putting her into care. And there are those big tough decisions that you have to make as a carer. In the role reversals. And then she made me feel absolutely like crap every time I went to visit her. Yeah. And then when she passed away about 4 or 5 years later, at her funeral, people got up and spoke about how much fun she was and how jovial she was at the home. And we're like, what? Oh. That is not what she did to us at all. But then...
What did you feel in that moment?
I was angry. I was really, really angry for a long time. But then I thought that was just her way of coping with us. But it was nice. It was a comfort now to know when I, look back going, she was happy there.
Yeah.
She was happy there. She'd made a home there and she'd made friends there from it. But it was hard going at the time. So she effectively had these, whether you want to say these two personalities or two separate lives. But what we didn't realise at the time was that she had MS dementia.
Oh, wow.
We didn't even know there was such a thing. I didn't even know up until 6 months ago that there was a thing called, and I have MS, that there was a thing called MS dementia.
So do you think her behaviours then was linked to that condition?
100%.
The behaviour towards the family members?
100%. Yeah. I've got a girlfriend whose mum is exactly the same.
So if you knew this back then, how would that...
It would have made a huge difference if we'd had the knowledge of it. But, we're going back 30 years ago and things were different back then.
Imagine, and this is just a belief, a fact, but imagine if we live our life with the right beliefs that are actually empowering us and as a result make us behave the best possible way.
That's right.
To be the best possible person we can be by changing a simple fact.
Yeah.
What if by then I assumed that actually it wasn't my mom's behavior, but it was actually a condition?
The MS behaviour.
I would have, would have made a huge difference.
Huge, 100%.
I'm loving these conversations. I'm like, very, very powerful stuff.
I think that's an awesome point, Gio. And even for you, Justine, 6 months ago, as recent as 6 months ago, you find out about this condition and, you're putting two and two together.
Yeah.
I mean, there must have been some pretty huge healing for you in that moment.
Huge amount of healing. Straight back to the counsellor.
Yeah.
Straight back, And that all came about because I compiled a book of people with MS around the country called Whispers of Resilience, and one of the authors in there she's gone on to write her memoir. She's written 90,000 words in 7 weeks. Phenomenal. And because I've had to proofread it all and I've read through it and there's a chapter about her mum and I'm like, hang on, her story's like nearly parallel to my story. And I'm like, how did I not know about this? Why has this not been discussed? And because my mum wouldn't let me go into her doctor's appointments. I used to have to sit outside in the waiting room. So she kept that all secret as well from us, from the whole family. And there's been relief there as well, knowing, okay, well, now I know why she was like that. I know why she was so bitter and angry, and that it wasn't her. That wasn't the mum that we had 10 years earlier.
I feel like I'm going through exactly the same thing with my father.
Yeah, we've spoken about your dad too.
Yeah, I had to fly to Italy just overnight. My father, all of a sudden it was the full-time care for my mom. And then all of a sudden they found him a duodenal tumor in his intestine. And then my father himself needed care. So I had to fly there and try to sort things out and help them out as much as I could. And just the whole thing was very overwhelming. But again, back to the tools that you need to deal with difficult situations. Really, having clarity. All about having a mindset that helps you taking the necessary steps that are right for your family and for the situation that you're facing.
And support.
And absolutely seeking the support. So I researched, didn't have any idea what support we had in Italy, because obviously I've been living here for the last 13 years, and I'm from the industry, but in Italy it's all different story, right? So I had to navigate all of that, and my father as well, always kind of very angry and resentful, and almost in denial that he needed help, that my mom needed help, navigating all of that.
Well, he would feel like he failed your mum.
100%. Yeah. Then he sees me stepping in and trying
Role
to
reversal.
Yeah. Like, what is he doing now? I want to be in control of this, and he wouldn't let go, and it's very, very hard to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing.
Yeah.
Having the resistance and people not wanting to say, yeah, I need the help.
Well, they feel they're losing their independence and, slipping down, and I totally get that.
Yeah,
Totally
absolutely.
get that. But, like I said, asking for help is a sign of strength.
Yeah.
Because when you ask for help, you will recover quickly in a lot more cases. You may not get back to what your normal was, but you'll get back to what your new normal will be a lot faster than if you try and do it yourself.
Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
What are some of the misconceptions to resilience?
That what we just spoke about. How fast people think resilience is you bounce back straight away, and it's not. It's having the coping mechanisms put in place that you can bounce back and not stay down the bottom for a long period of time. Like, everyone says to me, oh, you're so positive, and, positivity porn and all that. And I'm like, no, you should see me on my bad days. But they're a bad day. They're not a bad week, month, year, decade. All right, so I now have strategies in place that I recognise. I've not been on antidepressants now since end of 2011, because I know, I recognise the signs of when my body starts slipping down that dark hole. And I know what strategies I need to put in place. Back to the counsellor. I surround myself with positive people. We are the sum of the 5 people that we hang around, so I'm making sure that my tribe is positive on there. I control the fuel that's going into my mind. So social media can be very, very toxic. I've got if you let it, I've got people on my social media that their values don't align with my values. I'm still friends with them, but there's a little button that says unfollow. They don't know that I'm not following them. I'm not telling you who they are. Occasionally I'll pop onto their timeline and, I'll like a post here and there and go, yep, they haven't changed their values, and I'll pop back out again. But I'm controlling what I'm actually seeing. I don't very rarely watch the news. Again, I'm controlling what goes in the fuel into my mind.
Even music and stuff like that.
Yeah, videos, music videos. I'm very careful of what I watch. Movies. If I start watching a movie and it starts making me feel ick, it's like, I'm not going to watch the end of this. I don't need to watch the end of this. I watch lots of comedy. Laughter is really good. So, having all those strategies, hobbies, we all learnt through COVID, when COVID first hit, that if you didn't have a hobby, you were stuffed.
Yeah.
There was only so much TV that someone could watch. All right, and so having a creative output really helps with resilience, that you can then focus on something else. So whether it's journaling, writing a book, gardening, container gardening if you haven't got a big garden, creating art, crocheting, knitting, crosswords, whatever it is, to stimulate your mind. And when you're stimulating your mind, you're actually helping ward off dementia. Because you're exercising your brain.
Very
you're not
important.
just sitting stable with it. So when I'm facing an adversity, which happens quite often, I go to one of those hobbies. I go to one of, those core strategies that I've now got in place, and it helps bounce back a lot faster.
What do you think about pit stops? So, like, as you said before about, you might have a bad day, but not a week, month, year.
Yeah.
Like, recently I had this horrible bad day, and I probably have a pajama day maybe twice a year. That's kind of the boundary with myself. But I'll have a day where I switch off. So I came in the door, it was still quite early, it was like maybe 9:30. And I thought, I've had enough today. I'm just at burnout level. I got in my pajamas. I jumped into bed with a bag of chips and a bowl of ice cream. And my son came in and said, Mum, can you make me breakfast? And I said, mate, you're 16. You're old enough to do it yourself. I'm having some time out. And I put on Virgin River. And I binged on Virgin River ice cream chips before lunchtime. And then I had a sleep.
And you feel good
How did
after?
you feel?
Great.
Yeah.
And, I think those little pit stops too.
Yeah.
Like, give yourself permission to stop.
Yeah.
The world's going to keep spinning.
Yeah.
Your problem might still be there tomorrow, but at least you can just...
Mine was Uber Eats last night.
Oh, there you go.
So, I got out of theatre yesterday afternoon, and then my daughter was supposed to come over and care for me last night, but she had a sick child and I've got a very low immune system. I'm like, you just stay over there, keep your phone on loud all night. If I need you, you're 5 minutes away, I'm going to call you. As it is, I didn't sleep anyway. And then I'm like, I really can't cook. And I made a vow when I came back from Europe at the end of November that I wasn't going to order Uber Eats because I was ordering it way too much and my weight was escalating. So that was a boundary I put in place. And then last night, I have a comfort food, which when I recognise that is Chinese, Asian food, which goes back to when I was a child. It's the last meal I can remember my mum, my dad, my brother and I ever eating before my parents divorced. And so I know that when I need a hug, I'll go for Asian food. And so last night I was, sitting there in a bit of self-pity and pain, and I'm like, I need pork belly. And BKK make the best pork belly, salt and pepper pork belly, and I'm like, I'm going to order Uber Eats. Bugger it. So I did, and I'm sitting there watching Suits, eating my pork belly, and I'm like, yep, this is self-care to the maximum. So, I'm not going to order it again tonight, I can assure you, with the amount of calories that were in it, but...
Did you have leftovers for breakfast?
No, I ate the whole container last night.
You did it right.
I did it right, yeah. There was no rice or anything either. It was just a container of pork belly. Definitely. If your body's screaming, your mind's screaming to do that, whatever that action is, you do it.
Trying to break that pattern.
Yeah, that's self-care. 101. 100%.
And have a list. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Get out your rubby out pens and
Write it down.
make a list or get on your
Have it in your
computer.
journal, have it somewhere.
I know people that even, like, they'll write their lists of, like, hobbies, things that make them laugh, whatever that happens to be. They cut them up, screw them up, chuck them in a jar, and then you do a lucky dip.
Because when you're in that mindset as well,
Yeah.
you can't think clearly
Yes.
either. So by having it pre-done,
What a great idea.
it takes the thinking out of it.
Becomes more automatic.
Yeah.
Justine, I want to ask you this question. When adversity hits, can you step us through your
Process.
your thought patterns? Like what do you believe in those moments to help yourself getting out of it as soon as possible and move towards a solution?
Well, I can't swear on here, but normally there's a few profanities that come out of my mouth straight away.
That's number one.
Yeah, that's number one, swearing.
As loud as possible.
Yes, bit of a scream as well, and then go again, oh my God, again. I normally have a talk to the big fella upstairs going, all right, what's the lesson in this one that you're going to teach me?
I'll do the sound effects. Beep, beep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And then go, okay, what's the course of action? So I'm very proactive. All right, how are we going to deal? And I say we. How are we going to deal with this? When's my next doctor's visit? When's it booked in? What's the treatment options? And being very, very proactive and not just sitting there rocking in the corner going, oh, poor me. a why me kind of thing. I'm now very proactive in any adversity that I've actually faced. Then it's normally picking up the phone and ringing the core people in my life before they see it on social media. So that'll, ringing my children and my auntie and my best friend, and then popping it on socials. Because if something happens or someone sees me, because I have such a big social following and I'm authentic in everything that I do, there's no surprises. So it is sharing it out there. And it's like, okay, guys, this has gone wrong now, or I've got to have another surgery or whatever it is. And then I make a plan of attack. Okay, well, all right, I've got to have surgery on this date, or I've got to have treatment for this. How are we going to fit the businesses around this? What time off do I need to have for this? And get strategic with it all. So I have more of a strategic mind about it all more than a real emotional mind about it nowadays. I don't dwell in the emotional side of it, but that's my coping mechanism now for it.
And have you adapted that
Yes.
mechanism as, like, were you different, say,
12, 13 years ago when I was diagnosed with MS, it was totally different. And I was on a pity party for a long time because, I was diagnosed with a disease that my mum, an incurable disease that my mum passed away from complications from at the age of 49. And we were told for nearly, my whole entire life that I would never get it, that it wasn't hereditary. Yet here I was being diagnosed 9 years. I had 9 years left in my brain.
Yeah.
I was 40, Mum was 49. Oh, my God, I've got 9 years left. And my brother went off to the army. My son went off to the army. It was history repeating itself. And then my dad left my mum, and my fiancé walked out on me saying me having MS would affect his goals and dreams. So, and then left us with no money. We lived on food bank. And a distant cousin turned around and said to me, "Oh, get off your pity party." Where, in fact, I wasn't on a pity party. I was actually grieving. I was grieving for the relationship that I thought I had with him because he'd shattered what little dreams I had left when I told I was never going to be able to work again. We were under contract to buy a house. It was just such a mess. I had no money to feed a 15-year-old. We're living on $200 a week. That was it. That was family tax benefit A and B. And it's like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I've got no purpose. I've got nothing. And there was a lot of crying. There was a lot of swearing. There were a lot of mornings I didn't want to wake up. And the only thing that got me out of bed every day was that I was still a parent and I still had to take her to school. And I'd take her to school and I spoke to no one then for the next 6 hours until I went back and picked her up. And art got me through it. So I started creating and I started painting, and then I joined art groups. I joined a community centre where I was the youngest by about 25, 30 years because everyone my age was at work. And people who were 40, 41 are at work. And then I joined the MS Social Support Day program, which doesn't run anymore, unfortunately. But and I did 4 hours of art there a week as well, and then started entering exhibitions because people kept saying, "Well, your art's really good. Can we buy some?" And then I entered an able-bodied exhibition and sold my first piece for $300, and then that changed everything. That changed my mindset overnight in I can still contribute to society. I'm still have some purpose in life. So when you lose your purpose, that's when you're in real dire straits.
It was a session number 1, by the way.
Yeah, but isn't that interesting too, that often our pain leads to our passion, which leads to our purpose.
Yeah, because
So
I
sometimes
thought,
it's the pivot that just puts it off on another.
prior to being diagnosed, I thought I was in my dream job, in my dream relationship and living my dream life. I wasn't in any of it. So now, I'm happily single. I'm the healthiest I've ever been, which when I tell people that, they're like, what? With everything that's wrong with you? Because I control the food that I'm eating. I'm as healthy as I ever could be. I weight train 3 days a week. I still compete in weightlifting and strongman events and win titles in that, even as a disabled athlete. My mental health is on point. There's no pity parties. And I'm helping thousands of people around the world. You know, what's not to love? You know, winning Geelong Business Leader of the Year last year, going from like here to here, it's been a phenomenal journey. And it's only going to keep going.
Do you know what I just noticed though when you were talking about that? That around the 13-year mark and when you had that pivot was also when you came off the antidepressants. So that's how powerful the mindset stuff has been
I noticed that
in
too.
your journey.
Yeah.
That, you know, all of these things that you've just been able to continue to do and more, like 7 businesses, winning awards, living your best life.
And each adversity that I've had, a business has come from it, or something
You've used it.
positive has come out of every adversity that I have faced from it. You know, I go out as a keynote, international keynote, telling my story, and when I share of, you know, all the adversities that I faced, it touches every single person in the audience because there isn't something that someone hasn't faced in there. And I strongly believe that by me having everything that has gone wrong is to use my story as someone else's survival guide on there and to help and to show that anything still is possible despite what you're actually facing. And it takes the centre then off me. I'm just the deliverer of the message. Although it's about my life and everything, I'm just the one that delivers the message and helps, you know, people through resilience, transformation, Moxie, coaching, art wellness classes for people with disabilities, Morpheus writing classes for people that want to write their stories, want to publish their stories or poetry. You know, I've got one client at the moment, she can't move from the neck down, but she's just written a book of poetry. We're publishing that in July. So to give that to people and the opportunities that I've been able to give to other people, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I say wow. I just experienced a masterclass in resilience.
Absolutely.
This is gonna go viral, I think. You know, please share this story, everyone that you're listening, because that's one of the most powerful story I ever come across in my life, and I'm generally say that.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
touchy. It's incredible.
Thank
You're
you.
such an inspiration,
Absolutely.
and you certainly are shining through.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thanks
what
for
you've
having me on.
achieved. Yeah. Thanks for being with us.
And thanks for being real. Thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability in all of that, Justine, because
Authentic is what I live by, because there needs to be more authenticity in this world. It's less energy to be authentic than to try and live two separate lives.
it is, and you've certainly done that today, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Amazing. And I might just add as well that our first episode was on finding your why. So I think it's a really good link with what we ended on with your discussion as well. And so if anyone wants to watch that or listen to that, you can find that.
Yeah. That purpose is so, you know, having a purpose in life. It's a driving force.
Yeah.
It certainly is. What a way to end our second session here. This time live, well and truly. It's Wednesday 28, 2:30 almost. Well, it's a wrap. I think. Thank you so much, Justin, for being here with us. Thank you, Danny and Giselle here.
You're welcome.
It's been a great session.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thanks all.
All right. See you next time.